This is the Newsload.
Hi, I'm Carrie Anne Stevenson. I'm here with Newsload, and today I'm interviewing the man whore, the funny Billy Procida. Hi, how are you today?
Billy Procida. I wouldn't say I'm the man whore, but I'm Billy Procida, and I host the Man Whore podcast.
So you don't consider yourself a man whore?
I don't like being called a man whore. The origin of the show is because I had this problem by the time I hit the age of 24, like I hadn't had a serious relationship except for like one when I was 18. But I had a lot of vast sexual experiences. I was in New York City for college, and Craigslist was very active then. And I don't know, I had a lot of like fun, interesting encounters, and so I would share that when I would date, because at some point there's that, that spot where people want to ask, about your sexual history. And so when I would share some stuff, I think a lot of women started putting me in a box. I was worried that like, oh, you did a bukkake more than once? I don't know if you could be a boyfriend, but like, I'll have fun with you. And so I had this problem where women would sleep with me, but they wouldn't date me. And I wanted to find out why. So that's why in 2014, I started interviewing my exes about why we hadn't worked out.
Can you please explain bukkake?
I like how from all of that we took, but bukkake, it's I'm no big deal. Just my heart, shattered in pieces. And I was very self-conscious that I was too slutty to be loved. But yeah, group sex.
That's what that is. So, okay. So I need more explanation on group sex. Okay. So is this like...
Bukkake is when a bunch of people ejaculate onto an eager central party.
I probably a girl, yes?
I think anyone of any gender could be bukkakeed.
But you did on a girl.
I did, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So how does this happen? You guys are at a party, there's like, hi, we want to have sex with this one girl in the back room. Do you want to join? And you're like, yeah, high five. And then you all like march on down to the sex room. Like, how does this happen?
No, if anyone ever came up to me and said that, it would sound like a trap and I would not go back there. I've seen a lot of movies. Yeah. I know that if someone said that to me somewhere in another dimension, they're watching me on a movie screen yelling, don't go in that door. Don't go in that door.
Yeah, they chloroform you and then you lose a kidney kind of thing.
No, I would answer like a Craigslist ad where we would have a lot of back and forth and a lot of detail and screening. And then if everything is mutually agreed upon, they'd be like, you're approved. And I'm like, you're less scary. And then there'd be a date and there'd be a bunch of rules of boundaries and expectations and an address. And I think the first one I went to
email list.
Well, there's like an address and I can like look it up and I like have a name and I can look that person up. And, the first one I went to, I think was senior year of college, and it was like at this like nice brownstone in Brooklyn. And she owned it. Like the guy who's helping run it, I mean, he's just a boyfriend. It's not even his place. This is a badass woman. I don't know what she did for work, but she made good money because she owned this multi-story building. And at 21, I mean, I didn't even understand the concept of being able to afford your no roommates. So, I was very, very impressed. But yeah, no, it's not like some sort of like slapdash thing, at least not for me. I usually am kind of like, I've answered that. The only time I think I've done it last minute was like I would be at a sex party already, and a friend of mine was like, I'm looking for guys to bukkake me, want to be one. I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, April, why not?
So you've bukkakeed many times.
I've been part of quite a few, sure.
Okay. Yeah. And I've creeped you. You have oral sex auditions. How does this work?
I mean, that's an episode. I mean, I don't like routinely have those. It's a couple episodes of the podcast I've done over the last decade. But real quick, just to kind of put a finer point on the thing, it's because I had those experiences with the bukkake. I would go on dates with women and they'd be like, but they still want to hook up with me. They still want to hang out. They enjoy my company, but I don't think they wanted to take me seriously. And I was really self-conscious that none of them were like, I was like, oh, did I fuck up? And like, now no one's going to love me back.
So there's a little
that's why I don't like to be called man whore, because sometimes they would kind of go like, oh, you're kind of a man whore. Yeah. And I'd be like, I mean, I can't be loved.
So from a woman's perspective, there are girls complaining online lately going like, I'm on OnlyFans and men don't want to get serious with me, but they still want to sleep with me. It's a little bit on that level of, you know, you know, a sexual plaything, but not a, serious relationship partner thing.
Yeah, but I don't think that's anything recent. I think that is something that is, very historically true for a lot of women's experiences. I think that's why a lot of women connected with the podcast when I started it, like almost 10 years ago, because they were hearing a man speak to something they struggled with. That, at the time they hadn't really heard, maybe they hadn't heard a man want a relationship and be a fun, active sexual being. I think they were also experienced people want to bang them, but they don't want to date them. And so I think a lot of women heard the show at first and were kind of comforted to hear, like, oh, good, there's like men who feel this way too.
So how's
like,
that going? Are you in a serious relationship now?
Not at the moment, but I've had a few girlfriends over the years. Serious things that got more serious since I started the podcast, and it's pretty cool because like the listeners get really ecstatic when I announce like, so and so, maybe that initial live reference. Well, things are, girlfriend, and they're happy for me because they love hearing all the slutty stories and everything. They like oral sex auditions, but they are rooting for me in my love life because they heard the pain in that first episode and they've heard it over the years. And so anytime like something got more serious, they're happy for me. And when, there's a big breakup and I'm really sad, they're heartbroken for me. I remember my first big breakup on the podcast. I got all these emails being like, hey, I don't want to be weird, but can I have your address? And after I've thoroughly Googled them, I go, okay, because then they started mailing me whiskey and candy and cookies and just gifts to be like, I'm so sorry, your heart's broken. And it's a really cool relationship to have with the listeners.
It sounds like you have a really good fan base. That's wonderful. So let's reiterate again on these oral sex auditions. How does this happen?
Yes.
What is this about? What's
So many years ago, I had a friend. She texted me complaining about like guys who don't eat pussy, or like, oh, they brag about how good they are at oral sex and then they don't do it at all, or they're bad at it. And so I said, well, let's hold auditions, And so I found 5 dudes to show up at their audition times, and they could audition to date my friend. But they had 12 minutes alone in the bedroom to make a first impression using tongues and fingers only. Penis stays in the pants. And then I would do a little pregame interview. I do a postgame interview. They come out sweaty like LeBron after the fourth quarter. And then after they leave, I would ask her, okay, so how did it really go? Right. And so I did that many years ago. It was very fun. She ended up dating the best one of them. She dated for like 6 to 10 months or something like that afterwards. And so for my 500th episode a few months ago, we did a sequel to it where I was put to the test. So I went down on 5 different women over the course of a recording day. And, my friend from the original one, Roxanne, she did the pregame, postgame interviews. And then so she'd interview them for like 10 minutes. She'd leave. Then I'd come in. I had, 15 minutes to show them what I might be able to do. And then I'd leave. They do a postgame. They leave. Then I'd come on and be like, I think it's did okay. And so we did that with 5 women.
Okay, more questions. Are they all tested? Are there cold sores around their mouths? And
well, they're not doing any oral sex. It's just me going down them. So I'd had a throat culture swab, just to make sure there's no oral chlamydia, oral gonorrhea. A note to everyone, that's not always part of your typical STI test. So if they didn't swab your throat, if they didn't ask the throat, you need to usually ask for that, and you should, because I don't think we think about chlamydia and gonorrhea as like something that is transmitted orally, but 100% can be. So it's a word to the wise, to sluts out there who would like to stay safe. So I had that done. And obviously, like, I had no cold sores, because if I did, I wouldn't be going down people. I'd be alone home waiting for it to go away.
Mm-hmm. And the girls, were they tested as well?
Oral sex is just kind of like a really low risk sexual activity. Like all things considering, it's not a 0 risk sexual activity. It's just a much lower risk sexual activity if there's no sores going on. And they're also, most of them are people where like some of them are like sex educators. Like I kind of trust there, and it's a risk I'm willing to take. Some people, let me put it this way. I treat it like anyone else I'd go on a date with at the bar. And I think most people, when they give oral sex to like someone like a first Tinder date, not everyone's like being super like aggressive about testing stats. Some do, and it's totally valid. You do whatever makes you comfortable, but a lot of people don't. And I don't think because we connected via the internet for like a weird podcast recording makes it any more risky. Scientifically, it's not more risky to eat pussy on a podcast than wherever. So I did not ask for that, but like I made sure I got my throat swabbed. I used Listerine in between each person. And yeah, so that's how
The
I
Listerine, that's such a man whore.
Yeah, I'd like it if you didn't call me a man, like call me a
No,
man.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
did. I
sorry.
did just share, that there's like not a great that like the reason the show is called that. On top of it, stands out really nice in the list of podcasts. Is that backstory? It is a juxtaposition. It's that like you think man whore. One, you think a guy with more abs than me, and two, you think of a dude who just is trying to bang. But that's just not me. Sometimes I'm only
Also,
trying to
you probably get paid for your services in the prostitution level, but you don't, no?
I wouldn't consider that's not necessarily what man whore has to mean. I think we've used a lot of words to mean a lot of different things. We call people
Okay, so
whore,
it's not
literally
gigolo,
a
it's
sex worker,
not.
but well, I'm not I don't have a gigolo. I mean, look, I've got a price, and if somebody's dumb enough to pay me for it, and if you have, like, great, but that's not what I primarily do. So that I'm not.
So you do
I'm not
charge for your sexual services.
no, I think you're as someone who also has works in like news media from time to time and has written
Okay.
stuff. I can see where you're trying to find it, but it's not that. I
Okay.
have
Okay.
charged for sexual service on some few occasions. Like I said, if someone's dumb enough to pay me to fuck me or give me a hand job or some, fine, but it's not a regular part of my life or professional experience.
I guess the reality is, like I like dinner, before my date. So,
Great.
that's
Yeah.
sort of my price.
So if somebody wants to take me out, yeah, well, like if somebody who I otherwise wouldn't want to go, if somebody approaches me and is just like, I really want to go on a date with you, and like I don't know them, I don't know there's chemistry there, I don't know if I'm even interested, but if they're willing to like take me out and like pay for my time to like take a night away from anything else, and pay me to go out, and this has happened like again on a few occasions where it's like, hey, I'm gonna take care of all the bills, and I'm gonna throw you cash as well, but like I want to just have a night out with you. Maybe a lot of times it's because like, hey, I've listened to the podcast or I follow your OnlyFans. I think you're really cute and
Oh,
I
you
think
do
you're really
have an
funny, whatever.
OnlyFans.
So
Okay.
yeah, so if somebody wants to do that, great, but that's not like what I do.
What do
You
you
know,
do on OnlyFans?
I do what a lot of people do on OnlyFans. I show off how hot I am. I've
So do
still
you dance and you're like, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful? Like what? Or
yeah,
do
but
you
like
just
with my dick in my
masturbate?
yeah, but like with my dick in my hand. No, they're not mutually exclusive. I could totally dance while jerking it. No, yeah, I do. I have like a lot of solo masturbation content. I have some partnered content with friends of mine who also create that type of content, but are also friends in real life, and we've wanted to hook up, and it's fun when it's like, oh, I really want to give you head, and it's like, well, we could also make money in the course of one of us going down on the other. So I do have an OnlyFans. It's it's not like my main focus right now. So I have a lot of content that's up there that's available for purchase, but like I'm not updating like every month or something. So yeah, so like I'm not like I don't charge all the time for sexual services, but it's happened. But it's just I want you to get thrown off by that and like try to delve into a space that isn't really there's no there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have weird fan requests?
From fans, usually not. From OnlyFans, yeah. I just separate because a lot of people on the OnlyFans, I don't think a lot of them listen to my podcast. I think I'm just some like cute guy they found on Instagram or on OnlyFans or whatever. But I did have I had a lunar request that was interesting. That's where that's a fetish where people are really into like balloons and balloon popping. So, it was like late 2020, and this guy was like, "I'm gonna pay you this. I want you to like wear your underwear and jerk off while you pop balloons." Luckily, I have a friend who is a balloon artist, and so I was like, "Yo, can I get like a bag of balloons?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure," because those are not the cheapest. And then yeah, I popped balloons and jerked, and I think that's. Oh, I actually just had an interesting one. I had a dude like a week or two ago. He paid me. He didn't even want me to like masturbate. He just wanted me to like strip naked and then answer a few questions about circumcision. They were like very specific questions about circumcision, and
Does
he's
it
like, you don't
hurt?
do
Does it
anything.
hurt to be circumcised? You probably don't remember as a baby.
I don't remember the events. I do not remember, but it does not hurt to be for me. Like my penis feels great. I'm big fan of how it's set up. I wouldn't change it. But yeah, no, I don't remember being snipped at the time. He wanted to know like if I was talking to other dudes about our circumcised dicks, and I'm just like, sorry, man. One, I don't have a lot of guy friends, and two, yeah, the ones I do, we're not really talking about our dicks with each other. We're usually talking about like jokes we're writing.
Yeah, yeah. So you're a comedian as well.
I am sadly, I always have to clarify. I am first and foremost a stand-up comedian here in New York City. Yes.
And what's your favorite club that you perform at?
Well, I run a monthly naked comedy show in Brooklyn, and so obviously the show I run is my favorite.
And
But
where
yeah,
is this club in Brooklyn?
well, it's not like it's at a what I call a sex positive community space called Hacienda. They throw play parties, they do workshops, they do some social mixers, rope shares, stuff like that. But once a month, they allow me to make it look like a comedy club, and we set up a ton of chairs and we pack the place out. And we do a couple shows with a lot of really great comedians in New York City, except our clothes are off.
Do you like dating comedians or do you like dating only fan workers, or what's your preference in the dating circle?
I mean, I don't have really a preference on like their profession. I have a preference on chemistry and connection and empathy and physical attraction and being like-minded. There is something about comedians that I just dig because like I don't care if you're a comedian or not. I want someone who makes me laugh. I think there's a lot of guys who say they want a woman with a great sense of humor. Usually when they say that, they just want a chick who's going to laugh at their jokes. And it's like, I don't want to do that be the only one doing the heavy lifting. Like I want someone who makes me laugh in a day.
Yeah, I saw Twitter once where someone spilled their Starbucks on their lap, and then the girl said, so are you ready to eat pumpkin spice twate? And the guy was like, my girlfriend's funnier than me and I don't know how to handle this.
Wow, none of these people are funny. It's a pun. That's what we're dealing with. Yeah, no, my standards do go beyond punning.
Ah, come on. Puns are decent.
Then you deserve people who also enjoy puns. There's my type. Someone who also thinks puns are a very low form of comedy. I want someone who's going to make a great 9/11 joke at me. That's who I want in my life.
Yeah, I guess you're from New York, so 9/11 is good. Okay, I got a 9/11 joke for you.
Oh boy, here we go.
It's a 9/11 advertisement. Come to New York. Our skyline's clearing up. No.
Great dad joke. It's dad jokes are above puns. I will say that they do rise the level above, but I want someone who it's nice when there's someone like I can riff with, throughout a day, throughout a night. Someone I can bounce jokes off. They can bounce jokes off of me. I mean, I think a comedian would be great. I've hooked up with some comedians, but I haven't like dated a comedian before. But like I said,
there's only 3% of chicks in the comedy world, so we're tough, and half of them are lesbians, so it's a small window, to sleep with a female comedian.
Yeah. I mean, New York City. I think New York City's got a pretty like a scene that's growing and growing, and so it's less about how many female comedians there are as much as like how many people are booking female comedians, which I think is on the rise. Like even on the Naked Comedy Show, we're usually about 50-50. I usually have like 5 comics on the show, and like 2 or 3 of them are like almost always women, which is astonishing. That's why anytime I see a lineup that's like all dudes where there's like 1 chick and like 7 guys, and like every month it's like 1 chick and 7 guys, I'm always thinking like, dude, I get more comics every month to take their female comics take their clothes off and tell jokes than what are you even trying? You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not just
the opinion, of course, is that chicks aren't funny, so
usually said by men.
I have a hard time finding the funny chicks, and it's like, well, give them a chance, and if they keep getting work, they keep getting funnier.
they don't have a hard time finding funny chicks. They just they repel them because they're kind of shitbags. Anyone who thinks I can't find a funny woman anywhere in this town is not the type of guy I think funny women would want to date. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they're not finding them because people do not want to find them.
Well, Billy, you are a fascinating and interesting fella. I do hope that you find a funny and like-minded woman to be able to date. And I wish you all the best. How do we follow you on Twitter, on the podcast?
Yeah, the best place to find me is if you like podcasts, check out the Man Whore podcast. I have sex positive conversations with porn stars, comedians, actors, dating experts, authors, all sorts of people. Even had a state senator on one time. And so you can find the Man Whore podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm on Instagram at Billy is Procida. That's Procida. And I'm on TikTok at the Billy Procida.
Wonderful, wonderful. And one last request, if you don't mind, can you please say it loud, say it proud? I love Newsload.
I don't know Newsload well enough yet, but like I'm really happy to get coffee and get to know each other.
That's very safe and secure in the relationship sense. You can't drop the L bomb yet.
I have not checked out the website. I've not scanned it for any Nazi symbolism or anything. I don't need that. No. Who knows? I don't, it's, I haven't checked out.
Just because I'm German doesn't mean.
Y'all have to deal with that until we get to 2043, maybe something like 2044. I don't know. Y'all have to deal with 100 years of oops are bad, and then maybe we'll lay off the Nazi jokes.
Anyway, Billy, I wish you have a most wonderful day. Enjoy the sunshine in Brooklyn, eh?
Thank you. You as well up there.
This is the Newsload.